Well, hello everybody and welcome to another episode, and today we're going to be looking at this camera. This is the Polaroid SX-70 and this camera was sent to me recently by Klaus Tomasini, so many thanks to Klaus for sending that camera. We're going to have lots of fun with that camera on this channel. Now, I've not actually shot this camera yet. I've got 2 packs of film for it and I'm going to shoot this one today. This is the colour pack of film, so I'm going to very shortly put this into the camera and power it up and give it a first use. So this is absolutely cold. I've not touched this camera, I've not put a film through it, I've not shot it, I don't know what's going to happen, so your guess is as good as mine. I'm sure it'll all go fine, but we shall see very shortly what actually happens. A little bit of history to begin with. This camera, I believe, was released in 1970 and a very modern, fantastic looking thing it was. At that time I remember seeing them in shop windows and thinking, gosh, what a futuristic looking thing that was. They really were absolutely top shelf technology for the time, and I really did look at them quite enviously. They were given to many famous photographers and artists of the time by the Polaroid Corporation. Many artists and photographers used them, and that was a real good scheme, a real good idea on the part of Dr. Edwin Land, who invented all the Polaroid cameras. That publicised Polaroid cameras, and it also associated Polaroid with the work of those artists. So I think that's something that still remains to this day, that association with art shots and the idea that these are in some sense art cameras. Now, there were quite a few SX-70 models. This is the original, or more or less the original. The very first ones had no focusing circle. This one has a little focusing circle. This camera is an SLR, so when you see these kind of cameras, the ones that actually pull up, as I'm going to demonstrate in a minute to open up, these are SLRs. The later ones, there were some viewfinder cameras that had plastic lenses, I believe, and they were more snapshot cameras. This is the SLR variety, and as it's a slightly later one, I think this one dates from about 73 or 74, it has that image circle for focusing, just as a 35mm SLR does. Okay, so let's have a look and see what happens. There's a little ant exploring the camera. Let's see what happens when we put some film into this camera. So let's open it up. I'm always a bit scared doing that, just pulling them up, because it happens so suddenly, but that does seem to be how it works. Now then, as I recall, we have to push down this little piece here. Yeah, and then that opens up the film pack. So there's an old film pack in there. Not quite sure how to get that out. There we go, so that's coming out. Alright, now let's put that down a moment. Right, first of all, I can see there's some dirt on the rollers there, so all that old chemical squishy stuff on there, so I'm going to just clean that off first. I should have really done that before I came out, but due to my usual level of preparation, I didn't. So we'll give those a little clean just to make sure that there's nothing on there that's going to stop the rollers working nicely, because it's those rollers that spread out all the chemicals that spread across the film when it's squeezed out. All right, those seem kind of clean-ish. Alright, that's kind of cleanish, so let's pop a film in there now and just see what happens. So here's our new film, Polaroid Color SX-70 film. It is slightly out of date. This is dated at January 2022, but we are just about in date, so I'm hoping that will be alright. So there we are, open her up and let's see what's going on. Oh, it doesn't want to come out. There we go, that's got it. So there's our Polaroid film. A force to be reckoned with, good gracious. All right. Insert film this side up, do not remove this dark slide, okay. Right, here we go. So I'm thinking it goes this way. Like that. So then we put this up. Oh! Now that seems to be working. So that looks pretty good. And that's the dark slide that comes out. That protects the film before it's actually exposed. So now I'm going to take my first shot with this SX-70. It's going to be just a shot exactly where I am. I'm not going to move around for it. I'm in the churchyard, so it's going to be a shot of the churchyard. So we've got a light dark wheel there. I have heard that this is best just slightly darkened, so I'm just going to put it slightly towards the dark. Here is our focus. So let's focus. Right, this viewfinder's a bit tricky. It's you've got to get your eye directly lined up with it. But I'm now ready to take the shot. So here we go, first Polaroid SX-70 shot. Flipping heck. And there it goes. Right, I'm going to keep that just in the dark underneath my jumper for a little while, underneath my shirt rather, and let that develop in the dark. I believe that is what you're supposed to do. Just out of interest, here's the old film pack, and within there, I think you can just see inside there, just lying there underneath the metal there, is the completely flat battery that each of these film packs has. Each of these film packs has a battery inside it, so there's no battery in the camera. Every time you get a fresh film pack, you get a fresh battery because it's actually inside the film pack. That's one difference, one big difference with the I-type, the newer I-type Polaroid cameras. There's a battery in the camera, not the film pack, and that's why you can't use I-type film in these SX-70 cameras. Let's see what we've got now. Oh, I can't believe it. We've got something developing. It's working. Our Polaroids are working. I just can't wait for this to develop. This is magic. This really is magic. Instant photography, and it's so many years since I've done any of this. I just can't wait to see what that's going to be like. All right, so we're going to go and check out now some more photo ops with this incredible instant camera from Polaroid, and we're going to give it a little test and see what we can find. We're getting some kind of autumny colours. It's still summer here in the UK, but I think the autumn has kind of begun A lot of the leaves are looking rather brown, and we're getting some sort of autumn stuff going on. So there should be some nice colours to look at, some interesting things to photograph today, courtesy of Polaroid cameras. Now this might be an interesting shot, possibly the green leaves there. That could be an interesting shot. Let's try that one. So again, with our next shot, we're gonna pop it in the dark and make sure it keeps nice and dark where it's going to develop nicely without any interference from light. I'm not sure if these actually can develop in the light or not, so I'm going to play on the safe side and put them in the dark. And here is our first shot. Let me put my glasses on and have a look at it. That's developing nicely now, and let's have a look. So we've got some sort of browny reddish sort of tint on the shot. I'm not sure if that will change with further developing. It is a very nice sharp shot, and I like the creamy feel of those tones that are already beginning. That's something that these Polaroids are very famous for, the lovely creamy soft feel of the images, and I think we can see that reproduced here pretty nicely. So I'll put this back in the dark. I think it's got more developing still to do. So those two are now in the dark, cooking and developing, and we'll go and find some more images. So it'd be nice to find some colour if I can. Some flowers, and there are some colourful flowers here somewhere which I'd like to find. There's certainly a red thing, a very colourful red thing, a bin thing up at the end there. Maybe we'll go and shoot that. It's great to be using a Polaroid camera again. My first camera was a Polaroid camera, or well, actually my first camera was a Diana camera many years ago when I was about 3 years old. But my first camera that I really remember using properly, that I knew how to use and what was going on, was a Polaroid camera. It was one of the peel-off cameras that used the 88 film, the square 88 film. It was called a Super Colour Swinger. It was one of the black plastic bodies, and I used to love that camera, and it's great to be using another one. So let's see what happens when we shoot some colour from the sunny side if we can. Whoop. Okay, let's have a look at this. Okay, here's our next shot, a little bit of colour. Let's see what we can see. It's always quite an exciting moment when that happens. I always feel a little bit nervous when I shoot a Polaroid. Let's get this one in the dark, see how the others are doing. Alright, so our Polaroid Odyssey has begun. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the camera, I'm going to finish the film. I've got 5 more shots, and then what I'll do is I'll sit down and we'll review what we've got, see what we've got, and have a little sum up and round up. So see you shortly. Okay, so we've now shot all of the 8 shots on our SX-70 Polaroid land camera, and well, let's just have a little look and see what they're like. This is the first shot that I took, and I don't know if you can see that very clearly there. I'll do a scan of it and put it up more clearly for you to see. But what I can see on there is that beautiful signature Polaroid look of very creamy, sort of soft feel to all of the tones and colours. A slight tint of reddy brown in these images, I think. That is sort of a filmy look, it's a Polaroidy look. I do remember having that look from Polaroid images in the past, so it seems to kind of line up with how the film used to be. This is the new film produced by the new Polaroid company, but it's, as far as I can see, very similar to how the old film looked. I think one or two of these images are just a little bit overexposed, so it might be that I've not yet got the full hang of using that light and darken control, and in fact it might be that the stories I've heard of needing to turn that towards the dark side just a little bit more than I have. It might be that that's a sort of a feature across the SX-70 family. It certainly looks like a few of mine are overexposed, but only very slightly. With regard to developing time, well, I think these are still developing, but you know, they're sort of 95% there after 20 minutes or so. They're not as quick as the original Polaroids were. You would see that in less than a minute. They are quicker than the Impossible Project film I used about 10 years ago. That was really tricky to use, and you did have to keep that in the dark, and that was actually quite unpredictable. But this seems to be much more like the original Polaroid stuff was, so that's a really good thing to note. Let's just have a look and see how the others are doing. All right, so there are a couple. The last ones are still developing, but most of them are 95% there now, so I'll put them up. I'll scan them so you can see them better, but let's just see them quickly here for now. So they really have, I mean, this one illustrates it really well. That lovely creamy feel, the light, white, bright sort of feel, the dynamic range of the film, the smoothness of the film, it's just lovely, just beautiful, beautiful images. And there are Polaroid simulations. Maybe they're successful, maybe they're not, I don't know, but this is the real thing, and there's no real substitute for the real thing. Now, as regards using the camera, the main difficulty that I found with this one was the viewfinder. You really do have to line your eye up very, very accurately to be able to see the frame. If you're just off by 1 or 2 degrees, slightly to the side, slightly too high, slightly too low, then you're not going to see the full frame, and that does take a little bit of practice. Once you're able to do that, the viewfinder is very big and bright and clear, but that will take a little bit of practice. The other thing that I noticed was that I think I may have overexposed some of the images very slightly. I think I probably, on my next roll, need to turn down that darken control, turn it towards darken, and let the camera expose just that little bit less for a slightly shorter time. But there we are, that's my first roll with this beautiful, beautiful Polaroid SX-70. There is nothing like this camera in the world. This is a unique camera. Dr. Edwin Land famously said, if it's not impossible, it's not worth doing. This is as near to impossible as it gets. A film camera that develops shots in daylight, more or less. A wonderful camera. I've really enjoyed using it, and it makes such beautiful shots as well. They really are unique. I don't know that you'd find shots like this anywhere else. Film is lovely, but no film comes close to the feel of Polaroid film. Polaroid film is unique and out there and on its own, and I'm really, really glad to see that the flavour of the original Polaroid film from all those years back is preserved. I'll try and dig out some of my old Polaroids on the original Polaroid 88 film to compare by, and we'll see if we can do a comparison in that way and see how much the film has changed, if at all. But I reckon this film is very similar to how the original Polaroid film was all those years ago. And if it's different, well, it really doesn't matter, because it's got such a beautiful look. This is unique, exquisite film. The images are like those from no other camera. So that's it from me today. I would just like to thank our subscribers. Many thanks to all the subscribers who've subscribed to the channel, who support the channel by that subscription. That really is very much appreciated. Many thanks for the subscriptions. We're just shy of 30,000 subs. Please give us a sub. Let's try and get to 30,000 if we can. Many thanks also go to patrons over on Patreon who support this channel regularly through thick and thin. Many thanks for that support. We couldn't do what we do without you, and that is really appreciated. So many thanks to everybody who's become a patron. Anybody who's become a patron a long while ago and stuck with us, or anybody who's become a patron recently and is lending their support for the first time. Many thanks, a heartfelt thanks to everybody. Thanks for watching this video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the bell before you go. And if you like the content on this channel, then please consider becoming a patron. You can do that over at patreon.com/Zenography, and you can do it for as little as $1 per month. As ever, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time for some more Zenography.